For the first time in more than 5.5 years, we finally tonight have a few new answers to a question that has loomed over Indiana and over the town of Delphi. Who killed Abby Williams and Libby Gervais?
From the end of the bridge to, you got to go through. Now, I believe that the bodies were found about 50.
Born from a family's grief and determination. In April of 2020, Army soldier Vanessa Guillen went missing while stationed at one of the largest military installations.
That little music in the background that goes, "Don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious."
Right.
Knew about it or was there. He's as guilty as the person who committed
Chilling details in the arrest of a suspected serial killer caught before he could strike again.
Him, they dropped the ball, man. Like they said, he went AWOL, and that he was a deserter, and nobody went to look for him.
Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder.
Like I said, we're going back. We were asked last time to kind of talk about the food, the grub truck video, and kind of give our perspective of it. The press release from the police department, it indicated that they're still trying to put pieces together from that night. Does that worry you at any point or at any bit that they're still trying to put those pieces together?
It's been over 5 weeks since little Kaylee Anthony vanished. Her mother, Casey, has been arrested for lying to police. She's being held without bail.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to The Drunken Turkey Show, your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Drunk Turkey Show. I'm your host, Daniel J. Alongside with me, as most of the time, Big Blue. How you doing, Big Blue? I think you're muted there. Now there it goes.
Yeah.
How you doing, Big Blue?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Just enjoying my day.
Nice. And Jaime, I believe, will be coming in here shortly. I think he's been having a little bit of difficulty, and so we're looking forward to his presence. He's me and him actually hung out this weekend. Went to the Top Golf, and it was a fun time. It was a fun time. Big Blue, you went back home, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
How was your weekend?
It's good. It's good. I went to a friend's daughter's birthday party and visited my parents, and just had a few drinks like always. Just a few margaritas. That's all.
Just a few. Just a few.
It's one of those where like I was at the party and my daughter's like, "Dad, can I have a slushie?" I was like, "I know it's a slushie machine, but this is a Hispanic party. Let me check it first."
You muted yourself, man. You muted yourself.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, man. Those parties can get a little bit crazy. But yeah, go ahead.
So sometimes it's one of those things where like you got to test the punch before you give it to the kids because you don't know what's in it yet.
Yeah. Well, usually, Blue, if you're at the party, I'm checking to see if you've done anything with the punch first. This weekend, Jaime, it was weird because you went back home. Jaime came up here. We went out to the Top Golf, played a couple of rounds. Speak of the devil. He is here. He has arrived.
I have been summoned.
And so we played some Top Golf, man. Did you enjoy it? How was your time up here in San Antonio?
We played. we did our best.
That's true. I mean, it was not a
it was more than 6 videos of tutorials on how to play golf worth. That's what we got.
Man, not just six videos of golf instructional videos, but also one sweater vest.
Oh, that's true.
I'll let you guys try to decide who was wearing the sweater vest.
It wasn't
me. Hey man, I got a sweater vest for Christmas from my mother-in-law, and hadn't used it ever, and so I thought,
Today's the day.
This first time. Oh, we got Publicly Buzzed in the house. He's going to be coming on the show this Friday. We're going to be doing a Publicly Buzzed, a Drunk Turkey collaboration called Publicly Drunk.
Ooh,
you know,
nice.
What is it? PI, but it turns into Publicly Intoxicated. Oh, man. And so, yeah. We went out. We had a good time while you were here. Went to the mall.
This was fun.
How's the weather down there? I saw earlier in the live chat there was a bunch of guys talking about being cold everywhere.
It is, man. For us Texans, 40-degree weather is not the best. You know what I mean? That's cold for us. But like people from Minnesota, like my cousin, he's out there, and he's from over there, like negative 19s. Like that's cold. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like me complaining about 40-degree weather, a lot of people will be like, "Man, you're a wuss," and I am a wuss. When it comes down to cold weather, man, I hate it.
I actually like this kind of weather, man. I'm no guy that walks out in shorts and no jacket at 30 degrees. You know, my neighbors think I'm crazy until I take the trash out of my shorts and the t-shirt.
Yeah, out here it's in the 30s.
Crop top.
Yeah,
that's the only way he goes out, dude. We've what's the word I'm looking for? Right now it's like 34. It's not too bad. It depends on where it's at. You know, the cold is different in different places. So, for instance, I've traveled out to Pittsburgh area to watch the football games, and I was out there recently for the last Steelers game, and everybody there thought it was not that bad because it was 35, but it's 35 and humidity's in the air, and so it stings. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not like going out to Colorado where it might be 15 degrees, but it's like a dry cold, and so it doesn't feel that bad, and there's not that much wind. So it's different in different places. You know what I mean?
You know, the wind chill makes a big difference. Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, well, it's 2 degrees in Colorado right now. And so today, what we're going to be talking about, so we can get to the topic of today, is we all read and we kind of walked through the airmail article by author, journalist Howard Blum. It was The Eyes of a Killer Part 1. Part 2 came out. Again, this guy is an author, so this is like a short story style article. So there's a lot of what I call fat in this article, a lot of stuff that we don't need. And so what I did was I condensed it a little bit. And if you guys are members, you got a chance to watch this earlier. What I did was for the members, I went and recorded a little show, kind of putting this article together, minimizing what was in the article as far as what wasn't needed, what was needed, and just kind of putting together the meat and potato of the article, what was relevant, so to speak. So members, you guys got a chance to see that. If you haven't seen that, I recommend you go catch it. It kind of gives you an idea of how I put some of the work together. But this is that article here, Howard Blum, and I've deleted a lot of the stuff. So initially up here was talking about Bryan Kohberger prior to his this was just after he waived his extradition rights so that he could travel back to Idaho from Pennsylvania prior to him extending that preliminary hearing. And so the first couple of articles was referencing that, the next couple of days up until that preliminary hearing that ended up getting extended until June. So all that was a bunch of speculation of what he was going through and in the cell. And so I took all that out. But before we start, guys, did y'all read the article? Hyman, we'll start off with you.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, but I can't see anything, man. So I'm having trouble.
You can't see anything?
I can't see you pulled up something, but I can't. I don't know what it is. But I'm going to exit out and I'll come back in. See if that.
All right, sounds good. All right, go ahead and do that. Big Blue, are you able to see?
I mean,
And
it's in small print, so I can barely see it. But I'm gonna lose a chat, and then I should be able to read it now. Could go to full screen.
all right. Well, I'm going to read it for everybody for the most part and go through it. But I just wanted to make sure that you could hear and see everything. So it says, regardless of what is determined at still distant preliminary hearing, it seems self-evident that the next stage of Bryan Kohberger's complicated life and plain existence, lived by his own admission under treacherous star, was set in motion by the road trip that took him across America and home to the Pocono Mountains for the Christmas holidays, a journey that ultimately brought him to his present forlorn destination, a cell in Latah County, Idaho jail, where he is being held without bail. Okay. And with equally certainty, it can be said that Kohberger made his way back home and then celebrated the Christmas season in the bosom of his family. It was also a time when the small army of law enforcement officers who had been chasing the perplexing case since unnerving start began to grow convinced that, at least in operational terms, things had clarified. They knew, as any pack of bloodhounds would know, that they had the scent, and although they dared not breathe a word to the media or a matter even their weary loved ones, they were closing in. And so what this part is referencing is just and I'll also say this article jumps back and forth in time. You know what I'm saying? It goes from this point to a different point, and it goes back and forth. And there he goes. Can you hear me? Can you see everything, Jaime?
Yeah, now I can see. Ever since I downloaded that Discord, my computer has been acting up.
Oh, I got you. You can probably you probably delete that, man. The Discord takes a lot of what do you call it? Power, or not power, space.
I installed it, so we'll figure it out later.
All right, sounds good. So before I continue, did you read the article?
No, dude, you sent it to me and everything, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wait for the live tonight so I can actually have a first kind of reaction to it. You know what I mean?
For sure. So one thing I'm going to talk about this article is that it goes back and forth. It talks about different parts, and it doesn't have any. It just goes from, all right, we are before he was arrested, to the road trip with his dad, to, or after he was arrested, to the road trip with his dad, to the night of the incident, back to SWAT team about to go in. So it's all over the place. It was very it was, in my opinion, it was a little bit difficult to kind of keep everything together. And so basically up to this point, he's just kind of talking about two different parts. He's talking about the road trip that Bryan had taken. He's also in jail without bail. And he's also talking about the SWAT team and the guys that tracked him down. Okay, so it says Michael Kohberger, which is Bryan's dad, was worried about the snow. Only days earlier, he flew from Philadelphia to Seattle, then caught twin-engine plane for an hour or so flight to Moscow Regional Airport on December 13th. He was already heading back home, only this time it'd be a road trip. It was a fatiguing back and forth cross-country journey, especially for the 67-year-old Kohberger. But he promised his son Bryan, who had nearly a month off before classes resumed at Washington State University, that he'd accompany him on a drive back home on Christmas break. Real quick, guys, we got a $2 super chat. Says, cheers to the Red Nation, go Chiefs. Yeah. I was pulling for the Chiefs last night. I'm not gonna lie. My father-in-law is a Cincinnati Bengals fan. I'm a Steelers fan, so I've been hearing it for a while. I'll just say that. We'll get back to this. So Michael Kohberger and Bryan Kohberger were pulled over by police in Indiana on their way back from the Poconos when it snowed in Northwest. Acclimations were routinely measured in feet, not inches. Michael knew, so he wanted to get going. The weather came in; it'd be rough traveling, a 7-year-old Hyundai Elantra without four-wheel drive. You'd be slipping and sliding all over the road. So he urged Bryan that they should pack up and get going now. His son agreed. Once they were on the road, Bryan did something his father would later casually share with one of the mechanics at the garage near their home in Alludes, Pennsylvania, who serviced the car after a trip that caught him by surprise. Before Michael had headed out to Washington, he Googled the route back home. The quickest, most logical drive was pretty much a straight line plowing across the county along I-90. Bryan, however, button hooked south towards Colorado, where he'd pick up I-70. It seemed to make little sense. Colorado, mid-December, was snowy country. There was no telling what might suddenly come blowing down from the Rockies. But Bryan, according to what his father told people inside the north route across I-90, promised wintering conditions, better head away from the weather, even if it added hours or even days to his trip. It was a strategy that, when explained that way, was reasonable, was practical, even prudent, but it seemed like something more devious to the FBI. Okay, so what this is saying is, and what it's alluding to, and I think it's going to go further into it, was they were watching Bryan at this point, right? He went back home, and the authorities lost him, and they thought, or not lost him, they were following him south, and they thought that this was something more than what it was, versus just trying to beat the snow. That was something that we talked about early on in this investigation when it came out that he was pulled over by the Indiana State Police Department. We talked about how, him being in that area of Indiana would probably mean that he was trying to travel south to avoid winter conditions.
Yeah.
But
especially with the two front-wheel drive vehicle.
Yeah, man. I mean, I couldn't. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I want to say thank you to all 1,092 of you guys in the live chat. We appreciate every single one of you guys.
Yeah, but when it snows, it's ideal to have front wheel compared to rear wheel drive. Rear wheel drive, you just lose so much.
I know, man.
I know that. To Colorado, I had all-wheel drive, so that worked out perfectly.
I didn't. I had a rear-wheel drive truck. Got stuck.
When I had my Tundra rear-wheel drive, I would just pack it with a bunch of crap in the back just to get it up the hills when it would get icy.
Mostly beer.
Yeah. Mostly beer.
Mostly beer cakes.
All right. So, unknown to either the father or the son. That sounds religious. Unknown to either the father or the son, the Bureau had been determined to keep a watchful eye on the white Hyundai's trek across America. Only sources and law enforcement would confide with a bristle of embarrassment. Not long after the car had pulled out of its space in the graduate housing parking lot fronting 1630 Northeast Valley Road in Pullman, Washington, they lost it for several alarming hours or more. The authorities are keeping precise detail of this screw up close to the vest. The chief suspect in a quadruple homicide that had shocked the nation had seemingly vanished. So there it is. They lost him immediately once he left. Right? Mm-hmm. Man, does that concern you? Like, with this, investigation, there's a lot of things that I'm really getting concerned about when it comes to this investigation. What about you guys?
I think it was too early at that time to be able to put like a chip on his car to track him. They didn't have that kind of authority yet.
Right, but he's in Pullman, Washington. He's not in New York City. How hard is it to follow him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's concerning. You would think he would be eluding the police if he knew he was being, looked at. But for them to lose him right away. Yeah,
almost immediately, because he went a different route than they expected. Mm-hmm. I think they had anticipated at this point that he may be heading back home with his pops. They probably found out that his dad was going. They probably checked his records, realized it was a one-way trip, probably put two and two together and expected him to go a certain route, and probably had different checkpoints, right? where they're like, all right, I'm going to follow him from this point to that point so he doesn't catch on. I'm going to fall off. Another agent will catch on a couple miles down the road, right? And he fell off and didn't show up at the next checkpoint. You know what I'm saying? And so immediately lost them. They call it a botch plan or something like that, a hatchbox operation. Yeah. There's other things that I'm concerned about. There's been some pictures that have been, we're going through and we've seen from early on in this investigation. One was on the day of, and there's an officer inside the residence without booties on his shoes. And then it appears that the police department used a piece of the scene, possible evidence in the stools, to secure the scene by placing those stools at the back sliding door to secure the scene. And, it's like those type of things that are super concerning. And like I said, they lost them right away. And, it's not like there's just a few of these FBI agents. We found out there's 40 of them. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a couple. So, all right, let's continue. So, an explosive secret. The Bureau's watchers called it a hatchbox operation, and the jargon was a bit of an anachronism. And the surveillance on Bryan Kohberger, according to published reports and interviews with officials, was hatchbox all the way. The Kohberger's suburban home in Pennsylvania, where state police made their dynamic entry with good reason, too. The investigators rising a sense of excitement, and the circumstantial theory that they'd been secretly incubating for weeks was growing stronger and stronger. Back on November 25th, Moscow Police Department had whispered to local law to keep their eyes peeled for a white 2011 to 16 Hyundai Elantra when it had been caught on surveillance video dashing about the neighborhood not far from King Road crime scene in the early morning hours immediately following the incident. Okay, so on the 25th of November, according to this, that is when Moscow started to tell, the police department started to tell other local law enforcement, which I'm assuming is Pullman Police or Washington State University Police, about the white Elantra, right?
Well, each university should have its own police department. So I wonder what they told the police department there in Moscow. The university police department.
Here's the thing. I know that a lot of folks, including myself, have said that I think that the police have something. They have to have something more. You know what I'm saying? But I'm starting to doubt that. I'm starting to doubt that they have more. I think that they've shown their hand outside of what they found in the car and in the apartment, because those are the only two things that haven't been disclosed, right? I mean, they've said what they've described some articles that they pulled out of the apartment, but we have no idea what they've pulled out of the car. Now, here's why I have a problem with it. So, on the probable cause affidavit, it's 19 pages for one. It's got a lot of information. Some information that honestly doesn't need to be in there. You have where they talk about the possible exit points because of the proximity between Moscow and Pullman, as far as when he left the crime scene to when he showed up back in Pullman. But they know he didn't travel that route because they have pings of him going south. They didn't need to put that. The following day, they have him going to, on a road trip all over the place to Albertsons and all this other stuff, right? But they didn't find anything there. Like, outside of it looking odd, what does that have relevant to the case that he went somewhere? It'd be one thing if, he went there and then we found a knife matching, the description in a nearby creek or something. But that didn't happen. Like, there's nothing there, yet they have it in the probable cause affidavit. And so
I think because they're trying to lay a map of the time that took to get home that he took extra time. So
No. But this is after the situation. This is after the incident. They have, I guess, him on camera at Albertsons and all this other stuff, right?
oh, yeah.
And so, but what's the point of putting that in there? Unless he found something. And there's certain things that are in there that just doesn't make any sense to be in there. And it leads me to believe that might be all they had at that time. And when I read this article, I start to see that because they weren't aware of Kohberger until after November 25th, right? Because that's when they're starting to telling people about the Hyundai Elantra, right? Okay, it says here, 4 days later, Daniel Tango, a Washington State University police officer, was diligently spending the midnight hours on his quiet graveyard shift going through inventory of white Elantras registered at the university and popped up one belonging to Bryan Kohberger. Half an hour later, another WSU officer drove over to the graduate student parking lot and eyeballed the vehicle only to discover that it now had Washington State plates. And so 4 days, so this is November 29th, right? November 29th, Washington State police officer is basically just looking up all the white Elantras that are registered to park in the university, something that I would have assumed, that they would have done right away. We had said that when they were looking for it. They found one belonging to Bryan Kohberger. What made him go look at it? Because it's a half hour later, he sent somebody, hey, I found this, go check it out. Was it probably because it had a Pennsylvania license plate, only had one plate? And that was maybe something the police department told them? What do you guys think?
I think so. That they're using that as an identifier, right?
Right.
But
and
even,
I think,
but even through all the security footage they have, who knows who's driving, right?
Right. And so it says later in the still new morning, the morsel of intelligence, interesting but certainly nothing provocative, was passed on to Brett Payne, the gung-ho former Armor MP who was Moscow's lead investigator. Payne dutifully typed the car's registration details on the motor vehicle's record system, and the screen quickly displayed a photograph of Kohberger as well as his state driver's license information. The license revealed Kohberger was a white male, as 36 foot, 185, but the photograph that held Payne's studious gaze swiftly zeroed in on the eyebrows. They were bushy. And that Payne realized with a mounting sense of triumph with precisely a short telltale clue had been preying over the past 2 decades. For long, since the very first days of Grim the case, he and the small inner circle of investigators had been guarding an explosive secret. They had an eyewitness. Dylan Mortensen, one of the two 19-year-old surviving roommates, had seen the intruder at a little past after 4 a.m., just about when the detectives theorized the 4 students had been brutally assaulted. She heard a plaintive cry. Anxious, she opened the door to her second-floor room and saw someone, a man dressed ominously in black, was walking towards her. She vividly recalled the details forever etched deep in her memory, at least 5'10", not bulked up, but still trim like an athlete. He wore a mask that covered his mouth and nose, but not his eyes or his eyebrows. And so, okay, hold on, let me read this part. Kohberger has denied being the actor or having any specific knowledge of this crime. A profound amount of fear seized hold over her, frozen in shock. She would try to describe her galloping emotions, but the black-clad intruder continued past her as if she were invisible and headed towards the sliding glass door that led out the house. For reasons that continued to be bound tight with bands of mystery, Dylan returned to her room, locked the door, and didn't emerge until after 11 a.m. Only did she summon friends who, in a state of full-blown panic, at last called 911. But as she later related unnerving experience to police interrogators, she shared one detail that at the time seemed small, if not relevant. The man in black had bushy eyebrows. Now, 16 long days after the murders, Brent found himself staring at a photograph of a man who might be the intruder Dylan had seen walking purposefully through the home. So at this point, at November 29th, all they had was that Bryan Kohberger had bushy eyebrows and
that's
the white car.
What seems weird to me is like this barber must be a horrible barber because every time I go, they run those clippers through my eyebrows. So I got bushy eyebrows too. So I don't know, like, but his are pretty bad too.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that they're bad, but this is like this description. I'm sorry.
It's real vague.
It's vague. You can't even you can't get a good look at the person. And all right. It doesn't say here that they they took this picture of Kohberger and put him in a lineup with other men that have bushy eyebrows and had her pick him out of a lineup.
Yeah,
that doesn't come out.
Have they done that yet?
Not to anybody's knowledge. They haven't put that. Not, you know what I mean.
Typically, when it's an eyewitness, they put them in a lineup.
You would think so. You would think that would be the evidence that they would require to get the search warrants and stuff. See, here's the thing. There's something that is called the fruit of the poisonous tree. And what that is where if you get something off of an illegal search or seizure and or illegal stop or illegal something, anything that you found that was found due to that illegal stop, search, or seizure is part of the it all boils down into one, and everything can get thrown out. And so somebody having bushy eyebrows and driving a white Elantra, which they'd already said how many thousands were in the area, is not, in my opinion, a valid amount of evidence to get a search warrant, especially for somebody's phone records and things like that, like it appears these guys did. And I'm not sure. I don't know how good this lawyer is that has him, but I think that there's a lot of mistakes that are being done here. And
I was reading something today where the lawyer has actually represented 3 of the deceased victims' family members. So she must be a pretty good lawyer to be able to, for that many people.
Nah, it's because she's a public defender, and they're using public defenders, and I think it goes based on location, and there's only so many and certain amounts. It's a smaller area, and then you have a smaller population, and then it's split up by a degree of crime. So she probably handles like felonies. That means that the warrants are felony warrants. So it's just a limited pool of people and limited pool of public defenders. And so I gotta understand there's that DNA stuff. That's the DNA on the sheath, but it talks about the DNA on the sheath too. We'll get into it. But as of right now, I mean, how strong do you guys feel about what evidence they have so far? Start with you, Jaime.
I give it a 70-30. Like even from the beginning, like with the affidavit, there's some stuff there that the prosecution or the defense can poke holes and whatnot. Even I didn't understand why they even put the fact that his phone pinged at a certain point when he wasn't even there. Like, what do you think that was about? Why would they put that in the affidavit?
I think they just did it as a filler, just try to get as much information as they could out there just to make it look like a bigger document than it is.
I think it was a copy and paste of the arrest warrant, because there's 2 different, not the arrest warrant, I'm sorry, the arrest affidavit. So there's the arrest affidavit, the probable cause affidavit. You have a lot of different documents, right? And it's not uncommon for copy and paste the entire case report. It was 19 pages. Now, of course, there was a lot of the interviews and those things not in there, and so it was probably just from one point of view, and the arresting officer from what they went through and the case, right? There's going to be a bunch of other documents, or there should be other documents, supporting documents from every officer that was involved, right? From anybody that took a step on that property to the person that was just taking a log of who was walking in and out of that house. They have to do a supplementary report. And so all that is in there. That's why, I looked at the evidence that was handed over. It didn't look like a lot to me. In the discovery that they handed over to the defense, but we'll continue here.
The big thing that's gonna make or break the case is let's see when he talks, see what he says. I think that's gonna be one of the bigger things.
He says, well, it talks about what he says to the police department early on. Yeah, they talked to him for about 15 minutes, and so this article goes into that. And yeah, so we'll continue and then we'll break it down as we go. But I'm a little bit concerned about the strength of the case. I'm not saying they didn't get the right guy. I think there's quite a possibility that they did. I just hope they have some really concrete evidence to put the guy away and not just hang their head on one piece of, the little DNA that they have on the sheet as being their smoking gun. Because if that's it, might be a long day. All right, so this goes on. It says the chief suspect in a quadruple. Oh wow, hold on one second. $10 super chat. Just by the prosecution stating that his phone could have been pinged in Moscow, but him not be physically have been there, that itself dismantles any other ping. They have him in Moscow. I agree. I've been saying that. Since the PCA came out. I thought that was pretty concerning and damning. And it might be a situation where, like I said, that is a copy and paste. They do have, it's something called Brady, where they have to disclose any evidence that possibly could show that this guy is innocent. I don't think that falls under Brady because it doesn't show him innocent. It just shows that the evidence against him could be inaccurate. And so, yeah, no, I agree. I thought that made all the other pings suspicious. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. So it says here, in the hectic days that followed, the investigators quietly went on work on Kohberger. Using cell phone data, the techies on the FBI cellular analysis survey team mapped his movements. Kohberger, they methodically counted and had been in the King Road neighborhood near the incident site at least a dozen times over the past few months. He had been stalking one of the victims. There's a question mark there. The residents, question mark. They wondered. And like Sherlock Holmes, whose canny deductions in the adventure of Silver Blaze were prompted by the curious incident of the dog that didn't bark, they too found reassurance in the negative fact that discovery that Kohberger had apparently turned off his phone during the time the incident had occurred and was further tantalizing knowledge. So they used his cell phone data to see where he was at. I think you had to get a warrant for that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you got to get a warrant for that. Yeah. That's not something you could just ask and they'll give you. Yeah, it's been a long time, and I never requested any of those type of things in my career. So, what's that, Big Blue?
I said I'm pretty sure they did have to get a warrant because they can't just access the phone records.
You think they just got access of his phone records?
No, they do need the warrant. They need a
warrant.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I figured that. I mean, they can't just use cell phone data without a warrant. My question is, what do they have at this point to get that warrant?
Mm-hmm.
Because all they have is the fact that the guy has bushy eyebrows, matches a height and weight, and drives a white Elantra. I'm not sure that's enough.
I think maybe on the cameras they got a plate. That's what I'm thinking. They got a plate number, and that's enough to be able to do a
Well,
drag.
they had a plate number, then they would have went and talked to him right away. They would have brought him in. It wouldn't have been until November 25th, and then 4 days later finding it. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's not enough. They also sourly realized the persuaded judge to issue an arrest warrant. All they could do for now was store this intelligence away until another vital part of the puzzle could be unearthed, the crucial Eureka moment that would allow them to tie all the desperate pieces into a firm knot. A knot that not even the most industrious defense attorney could ever hope to unravel. In the meantime, though, they would need to keep a watch on Kohberger. Only now, as a suspect headed across country in a very car they believed had been captured in the blurry surveillance footage, his father mystifying at his side. They had lost him even before the hatchbox op could get underway. A mood of panic rapidly escalated into one despair. Frantically, they began to search records of automated license plate readers in nearby states. And see, now this is where it jumps back into they're driving from, they're in the car, right? And this is where they got lost. It was an exercise in futility, nothing, not a single hit. Then they got lucky. Loma, Colorado's street light went up in 2015 at the intersection of Route 6 and Highway 139. It was not long after when engineers decided they might as well put on one of those cameras to the light pole. December 13, it was caught. Washington license plate CFB 8708, white 2015 Elantra registered to Bryan Kohberger. With this sighting, hold on one second. Caleb Cutler says, "Go Ravens." Go Steelers. Thank you for your $2 tip. Where was I? With this sighting, the hatchbox op was once again underway. The watchers would keep in their eyes covertly on the car all the way to Pennsylvania. Fate had mercifully bestowed on them a second chance, and they were determined not to stumble. Still, they were not prepared for what would happen next. Kohberger's apartment building in Pullman, Washington. 2 days passed uneventually, and the pair now drove through Indiana. Oh, sorry about that. This was because there was a picture, and that was the description of that. So disregard that part. 2 days passed uneventfully, and the pair now drove through Indiana early morning, December 15th. Michael suddenly found his world starting to tilt off its axis. He abruptly had a new worry. It seemed incredibly that his son's salted University neighborhood, the precise location just a stone's throw, in fact, from Bryan's apartment, had turned into a combat zone. The details were this: Bryan had received and then apparently shared with his dad a pinging alert on his phone around 3:20 a.m. And WSU had issued an emergency advisory. The community was advised to shelter in place. As the Kohbergers would learn by listening to the news reports earlier that evening, a man menacingly waving a rifle had threatened to take out his roommates. When the police arrived, the frightened roommates were released, but the rifle-toting individual, Brent Kopacka, a 36-year-old Army veteran reportedly suffering from PTSD, barricaded himself in the apartment, made it clear he wasn't going to leave. This is a SWAT incident. With that defined declaration, events escalated. A dangerous moment when Whiteman County Regional SWAT team approached the apartment. The gunman opened fire. The police retaliated. The tree-lined streets were suddenly cracked with gunfire. Crisis negotiators' pleas were answered with rounds. And with the first light of the new day looming, the 7-hour standoff surged its harsh conclusion. Steely SWAT team sergeant took out Kopacka. So that was the incident that had occurred earlier that when Kohberger and his dad got pulled over by the Indiana State Police Department, or the troopers and the sheriff's department. So what happened as the Hyundai Crip through Hancock County, Indiana, has been carefully preserved. At 10:41 in the morning, December 15, as the car approached the 107-mile marker on the interstate, Bryan Kohberger saw red and blue flashing lights in the rearview mirror. Sheriff's car was demanding the vehicle to get pulled over. Bryan obeyed. He waited behind the wheels. The officers approached. What happened next seemed destined to play out as high drama at the very least. The car approximately fit the description of the vehicle observed in the aftermath of the quadruple incident. The driver, the Moscow Police Department had alerted the nation was to be considered a person of interest in their investigation. See, they didn't alert the nation he was a person of interest at that point. I didn't understand that part. Maybe he meant later on, but I didn't like that. His deputy Nick walked the slow measured steps towards the passenger side of the Hyundai where Michael sat. There seemed to be no escape. There would be no springing free. The time reckoning had arrived. When deputies officially demands where they were heading, Bryan responds, suggests nothing more than a casual drive. We're going to get some Thai food right now. That's when the father decides to turn and play the straight man. We're coming from WSU. The Indiana deputy, with the initials having no meaning, it's all beyond him. So both father and son, eager to please, attempt to remedy the confusion and the process, only add the officer's puzzlement. Can't decide whether both of them work at the university or in fact who is a student, or if they headed out of Washington, a cross-country trip just to get Thai food in Pennsylvania. And so even the deputy was trying to sort through the befunding torrent of information. Michael seems as if he could talk the ears off a brass monkey, starts rambling about the incident earlier at WSU. This grabs the officer's attention. What did you say about the SWAT teams? Michael now has his lead. He begins a long, winded explanation only to be cut off. Interesting, the deputy remarks without an apparent interest. But Michael was determined to have last word. Well, it's horrifying. Yet the son must have his say too, with a graduate student's well-ingrained reverence for the facts. He corrects, we don't know about that. Actually, we weren't there for the incident. We're slightly punchy because we've been driving for hours. The father finally confesses. By now, the poor deputy is no doubt punchy too, and in the end, perhaps eager to escape the madness. He warns them not to tailgate, lets him go without a ticket, and the body cam footage ends. And Kohberger drives off. Quick 9 minutes after they're back on the interstate, Bryan again sees flashing lights in the rearview mirror. Kohberger's stopped again, this time by a state trooper who pulls him over. Once more, very least, their car should create a shock recognition. The nationwide PD vehicle alert. It's a ticking bomb, only against all odds. They're again simply reprimanded for tailgating and sent on their way without a ticket. Yet, unbeknownst to either the father or the son, it will be a matter of time before their luck runs out. While Michael's previous worries didn't come to fruition, this one will. And what were the FBI thinking as they, from a discreet distance, observed their targets being pulled over not once, but mind-boggling twice by authorities? So basically what this is all just trying to say is that when Michael and Bryan got pulled over in Indiana, they brought up the WSU SWAT incident because, the officer was trying to figure out where they were coming from. And when Michael said WSU, that meant no, he didn't mean anything to him. And so they tried to explain what WSU was using the incident that occurred with the SWAT team. Now, what they're also alluding is that the FBI was not a part of them getting pulled over because, it says here, what were the FBI thinking? They see their target being pulled over not just once or twice. You guys have seen the traffic stop. We've talked about it. Do you think that those traffic stops were planned by the FBI or law enforcement? We'll start off with you, Big Blue. What do you think?
I don't think it was part of the FBI. I think he was just following too close. Because if it was the FBI, to pull them over short of a distance from each other doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Maybe if you pull them over in a different state, that way you don't get him suspicious of being tracked.
Right.
But within 10 minutes, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. What about you, Jaime? Did you think that it was a planned?
They came out early and said that it wasn't planned by either them or the FBI. But The way things are going, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're holding back on a lot of information that we don't know. Um, to be honest, I do kind of feel like it was probably planned, um, but I don't think they will let us know yet.
Yeah, I am starting to lean on the side that it wasn't, and the reason why is how the cops were acting when they approached the vehicle. Very nonchalant, hands leaning up. You know, they would have had to have known that the person that they're pulling over is, unless they didn't tell them that the person that they're just getting eyes on is a suspect of a quadruple homicide. That's an officer safety issue if you don't tell the officer that that's who they're pulling over. So I highly doubt that that would have been the case. I think they would have been well informed of the person so that they would have kept their guard up and kept their, you know, have a higher alerted sense or whatever, and a higher sense of awareness. I'm sorry. And so that kind of tells me it wasn't, but maybe one of them, possibly. You know, it talks about how they lost them earlier. You know, this may have been like, hey, double check that this is the guy, and one of them gets pulled over, probably the first one, and then maybe the second one, the state trooper, and that's why he left abruptly once he found out that they had been pulled over earlier. And it was the first guy, I believe, who had his hands like nonchalant inside the car, and so maybe one of them. I'm not sure about both of them. And we'll say thank you to Rev Cynthia Hughes. We appreciate. Oh, wait. Sorry, wrong one. It moved up on me. Thank you, Amy Harris, for the $2 super sticker. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you too, Reverend. But we'll get back to this. It's crazy thoughts. And what about Bryan Kohberger, man who resolutely professed his innocence? What emotions rushed through him as he saw the flashing lights in his rearview mirror? To judge by his demeanor on the 2 body cam footage, he displayed a remarkable calm. He seemed unruffled by the sort of highway encounter that would have left many people jumpy, even if they would have subsequently been charged with 4 counts of homicide. Highway cops routinely wield the authority as bullion. It's their first line of defense. Kohberger's emotional temperature, however, didn't appear to jump a notch. So the great trash robbery. So this is going to get into, you know, these guys get in the trash. For hunters, meanwhile, it was a time of preparation. As a result, in the antsy days following Kohberger's arrival in the Poconos, the afternoon, December 16th, Moscow police suffered through variable moods. There were bursts where there was no denying the great push forward was underway. Corporal Payne, the PD's lead investigator, obtained a search warrant, and then a day later, on December 23rd, he received the records of Kohberger's cell phone for the 24 hours before and after the homicide. So they did get a cell phone. They got his records the December 23rd or the 24th, right? And with the help of FBI, this information was employed to plot a map that intensified suspicions. After a cell phone tower near the King Road house lost all track of Kohberger's phone at about 3 a.m., it was shut off. Left another location, his phone suddenly jumped back to life in the wee hours of the morning, not long after the incident, and his car was tracked heading south of Moscow at just after 9 a.m. that same day. Nearly 2 hours before the police were summoned, he was tracked to the neighborhood of the situation. The actor returning to gaze at the scene of the crime, question. Payne could only wager a guess, but according to the now confident buzz going through PD, this was a bet he would take. Beckfest. This is the most balanced, enjoyable, calm live stream I've ever watched. I'll definitely be back. Thank y'all so much. Thank you for the $5 super chat. We appreciate that, and thank you so much for your comment. We appreciate that. All right, so this kind of clears up the whole, getting the warrant. I'm still kind of concerned about the information that they have to obtain the warrant, but we'll continue. On the other hand, it was also a time of disappointment, just as the case was nearing the finish line. Cops. Okay, so this is when it's talking about the SWAT team for the police department having to go and take care of it. Since Kohberger was now in the States play field, they would be the ones taking the ball over the goal line. This is Pennsylvania State Police. Sorry, I kind of read things backwards every now and then. It's part of my dyslexia. So Major Chris Paris of the Pennsylvania State Police was put in charge of the operation. Paris possessed a lowerly sense of discretion. He shared the secret that a suspect was in the crosshairs with just 8 persons working the group. A leak of promiscuous whisper or the whole case might be blown. For although Kohberger was apparently unaware at the time, the Stades and the suspect were playing an intricate game of cat and mouse. There was Kohberger observed taking his Hyundai in for servicing at a garage in Everett, Pennsylvania, not far from his parents' home. Next, he was spotted wearing gloves as he gives the vehicle a meticulous cleaning. And of course, there are the actions that can mean nothing or everything. It just depends on the preconceived notions that influence your judgment. A little harder to dismiss. There was Kohberger sneaking over to deposit some trash in the neighbor's garbage pail at around 4 a.m. in the morning, getting rid of incriminating evidence or just a bit of mischief. Once again, evil is in the eye of the beholder. So he's getting rid of trash at his neighbor's house at 4 a.m. Now, the area and where he's at, the houses aren't very close to each other. Apparently, these are like houses that are acre or 2 acres apart. You guys find that a little bit odd? I find it pretty weird. What do you think, Jaime? You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
It takes forever to unmute. I don't know what's going on.
It's StreamYard, man. StreamYard.
What was that?
My question was, do you find it odd that at 4 a.m. Kohberger is going to his neighbor's house and discarding trash? Now, yeah. Do you find that odd? It would be what? Like if it was back in Idaho, like if he was having like jet lag, right? Let's say he's still used to Idaho time. Mm-hmm. That it would be a 3-hour difference. It'd be like 1 a.m. It's still kind of weird. What do you think?
I'll be honest, man. I've done that too. I discarded stuff in my neighbor's garbage can. But at this point, we're because he's suspected of this crime. I mean, it will stick out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially after cleaning his car, and he actually went through it with the purpose to make sure it was his thing. So it does put some suspicion on him.
I think it does, dude. I think it's the part that I don't like is that they didn't find anything, but the fact that he did it, those are two different elements of what's going on, right? You have the element of what he's doing, and then you have the element of what they found, and so or the two different components. The fact that he's doing it, that component of what he's doing is pretty suspicious to me. It's odd. I don't understand it. I don't understand why he would want to do that. To go out of his way to go drop it off in a different location. Confirmed I'm an accomplice.
I got a good alibi.
Got a good alibi. What about you, Big Blue? What do you think?
I think it was probably the second time he's cleaned it, so they weren't going to find anything. It was just double, covering his tracks. So to cover it even more, he decided to discard it in his neighbor's trash. Because it never says in the report if his parents' trash was full. Like, I understand if it's full, I would go to my neighbor's.
Well, that's not right, Blue. You're not supposed to go to your neighbors to do that without their permission.
Yeah, I got their permission though, and we got to deal with me and my neighbor. If mine's full, I can use his if it's empty, and he can use mine if it's empty, depending on trash day.
Got you.
What's what like you said is like, yeah, he threw it in his neighbor's trash bin, but like it's it's not like literally across the street. It's like farther down the road, right?
Yeah, it's like a good walk apparently, and so it's a little bit weird now. Maybe perhaps like Blue said, this guy could be one of those germ guys, right? That germ freaks that don't want germs, wear the plastic gloves just so not to get anything on their hands or whatnot, right? and perhaps maybe the trash bin was full, and so he, in his mind, he's OCD about things. He rather go and discard it at his neighbor's house where it's not in his sight or view or whatever, and things of that nature. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And so, but I think it's suspicious. We'll continue. But all this was before the Great Trash Robbery. This was what some wags at Troop and the state. Man, this is freaking weird to read. The state police barracks that was running the surveillance op later dubbed the Pilferling. On December 27th, Major Paris received a request from the FBI to plunder through the trash bins outside of Kohberger's residence. That same day, once the stadiums were certain no one was looking, 2 troopers swooped in and made off with a pile of Kohberger family detritus, which is their trash. I wonder where they took it from. I guess their trash bins outside of the residence. So this is their trash that they took it out of. This wasn't like inside their house or anything. We have a $2 super chat. It says long trip cleaning out trash houses or close PA. A long trip cleaning out trash houses were close PA.
Probably
I
meant
appreciate
like all the trash they accumulated from the trip.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you for the $2 tip there.
Thank you.
All right, so man, the purloined parcel was quickly shipped across the country to Meridian, Idaho. There in the Idaho State Police Crime Lab on South Stratford Drive, a forensic team went to work sorting through the trash, and it turned out to be a treasure trove. For all along, Moscow police had been holding up a tight to a second secret, one that no less charged than the statement with the eyewitness. The knife sheath stamped with the U.S. Marine Corps Eagle Globe and anchor insignia had been found laying on the bed next to Madison Mogen body. And from the sheath's button strap, a speck of male DNA had been recovered. So before we get into this speck, we have Tim Allen. Ho, ho, ho. What do you think about the downstairs neighbor in Pullman from Bryan reporting that he was vacuuming late at night? Could he have been trying to say he has OCD, or could he use that in court? That's taken a lot of planning. If he was trying to use that as a defense, right, for later on saying, "Oh, I'm OCD." Now, he could say that that's the issue. If he is OCD, then he might be able to use that. What do you think, Hyman and Blue? We'll start off with you, Hyman. Do you think that that he reporting him late at night, that it could have been trying to say he was OCD?
Man, if he was doing vacuuming, from what I saw in a couple of movies, I don't know if he was actually clean. But I don't know, man. At this point, it could be that he's just OCD, and I've known people that they want their house like super clean, like they don't let like a dish even like as soon as you're done, they go in there and they're washing and stuff. It could be like that. Yeah. But it's just the thing is like if he's suspected of this crime, anything that he does that's normal in his everyday life now seems a lot more suspicious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. What about you, Big Blue? How do you feel about this? Do you think that he was doing that as a to show? Well, if he was doing that after the incident, maybe he was trying to show a pattern.
That, or maybe he was maybe vacuuming off his clothes if he got close to the dog, or there was dog hair there. He was trying to conceal some of the evidence.
There was one strand of dog hair. I got dogs. I tell you, you come into my house, you're leaving with more than one strand of dog hair.
Yeah, for real.
I don't know. Maybe he was vacuuming his clothes.
Yeah.
Dude, imagine this is actually Tim Allen. That'd be crazy.
That would be awesome.
Do your best Tim Allen impression. There you go. Nah.
Obsessed for Disneyland comes in with a
Infinity and
$2 super
beyond.
chat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And so, what do y'all think about the one speck of DNA on the sheet? Doesn't sound like it was a lot. Doesn't sound like it was anything more than probably just touch DNA. What do you think?
Man, if it's it all depends on what kind of DNA it is. I mean, it could be touch DNA, it could be blood DNA. I mean, if it's touch, there's some room there for him to, to make up a story, at this point. But if it's blood, it's a whole different story. So it's a whole different ballpark,
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. But here's where I've read the affidavit. I've read this now to this point, right? This has gotten to the point where they get to the sheath. This is their secret. It says right here the next day on December 29th, the Brett Payne goes and gets the warrant, right? So it's an 18-page document to the courthouse. And then he sends it off, right? And then the rest of this article goes into, and we'll read the rest of this article, goes into what Kohberger said after he was arrested. But I feel like we should put this all together real quick. So the incident happens on the 13th. They have a sheath. They find out shortly after that there's DNA. They have a witness that states that they saw somebody at least 5'10" with bushy eyebrows. And they have video and pictures of a white Elantra in the area, right? That's basically the only thing that they've been able to accumulate from this situation. They also have a footprint of a Vans shoe and walking in the direction of where Dylan said that the perpetrator walked out. And so from what I understand, what they did was they attempted to find this white Elantra, put all these pieces together, and then on the 25th, about 12 days later, they decided to start telling other agencies nearby about the white Elantra because it hasn't been public to the other agencies yet. And so one guy takes a look at all the Elantras that were through the WSU inventory for the cars that were registered or parked there, goes through the Elantras, and something points out towards Bryan Kohberger's. Probably the fact that it was registered under Pennsylvania. Because of it says here in this article, the officer that showed up was surprised it was Washington registered now, right? But it was probably because it was registered Pennsylvania, so they were probably looking for cars that didn't have to have a front license plate, right? Because that's what they saw in the picture or in the surveillance. So they came to this vehicle. This information was passed on to the lead officer. That officer looks at the picture and sees Bryan Kohberger's face, and based on the eyebrows, zeroes in on Kohberger. Because at this point, all they have on him is the eyebrows and white Elantra. Probably white Elantra with at least at one point without a front license plate.
And maybe his physique, maybe?
Yeah, his physique. They pulled that up. They go look at his citation that they gave him, that he had received. They get his phone number. Now, based on a weak description and the fact that he had a white vehicle that possibly didn't have a front license plate during the time of the commission of this incident, they were able to obtain a search warrant for his phone records, and they were able to use those pings to get an idea that he was at least around the area at least 12 times within the past few months leading up to the incident, right? They then go in there and get DNA off of trash that they have told the FBI to get in, pull back out. And that DNA matched to being the son of Michael Kohberger. And then they got the arrest warrant. Did I get everything down right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So
I just want to say that $2 super chat that says one spec is all it takes to get a case on him. That's the way the song's going to go now.
I mean, it's one spec is all it takes to get the eyes there.
Mhm.
So that was all basically also in the probable cause affidavit. Um, that doesn't sound like a lot of evidence. It's a lot of circumstantial evidence. They have the video, the surveillances, the pings. The only thing that's concrete is that he somehow, in some way, at one point, touched that sheath or got his DNA on that sheath. That doesn't even put him in the house. It just puts the sheath in his possession at one point.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so much for your $4 super chat. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if you guys could hit that subscribe button, we're trying to hit 30K by the end of this month. We'd appreciate if you guys did that. Also, if you could hit that like button. This type of content, because of the verbiage that we use, sometimes gets limited as far as the monetization or demonetized altogether. And what that ends up doing is it lowers the reach that this video has. And so if you hit the like button, it helps the algorithm kick in and gets this back out to a lot of folks and gets us going towards our next goal. And thank you so much. And so I want to bring something up real quick, y'all. And you guys are going to tell me if you like this. I want to see this in the live chat. Give me a second. We got these coming out. I don't know if you can read.
I can read it. That's the.
I don't know if it's backwards or not.
No, you could.
You can read it.
That's the Jaime edition.
This is the big red Jaime edition beanie that'll be out here soon. We have a website that's in the works, y'all. It'll be able to help. It'll be able to help you guys get in these orders. But just wanted to give you an idea. We showed off the hat last time. Jaime had it. This time we have the beanies in. We'll be putting those on the website. Stay tuned. If you're interested in one, send us an email. If you live in the lower 48 states or whatnot, we'll be able to hook you up with one. I think we are. Yeah. 30K subs and we get the glasses off, but that has to happen before January 31st at midnight.
Yeah, 35,000 and Blue takes off the shirt. True story.
40,000 and Blue puts it back on. Just kidding, you're my boy Blue.
45 and I'll help them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the gun show. It's the gun show. So if you're interested in a beanie or the hat, just email us at drunkturkeyshow@gmail.com. We'll be getting back. I know I got a couple emails from our friends across the pond and referencing the hat and stuff. And right now we're figuring out that the international stuff, but for the 48 states of the United States, and I think even Mexico and Canada, if you guys are interested, email us. And so Paul Johnson goes, I don't believe Lana meant disrespect. Please address. I'm not sure what disrespect you're referring to. I didn't find anything that she said to or us or anything like that disrespectful. Appreciate the $2 live chat or super chat. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we all have our own opinions, and it was a.
Whoa, Blue muted himself. He must have gotten censored.
Oh, I thought you were going to say excited. My bad.
I was going to say, her show was fun. She's funny, and I jumped off early because my phone kept dying, guys. Like that's why I jumped off.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their way of being, the way they host their shows. So every show's different. We've been on a bunch.
Yeah, Yeah, and there's some people that are not going to agree with what you say, and you just, like I said before, you got to be thick-skinned, to take the criticism and evolve from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure.
I'm gonna be getting off here soon, guys. I'm gonna go to work, and my computer might kick me off. So.
All right, Big Blue, appreciate you here. And so, Paula Johnson, I'm sorry, says another $2 live chat. Live the other night, our group hit her hard. Yeah, there's no need to attack anybody, y'all, or any of our guests. We, they're guests for a reason, and we'd like to treat them as so.
Mhm.
If you have an opinion about any comments that they have made or stances that they've had, I understand everybody has their opinion and can express it to them. I just would appreciate it if you guys were, keep it civil. We'll keep it at that.
Yeah.
And so we'll get back into the content. All right, so ready for a fight. Just after midnight on December 30th, the Pennsylvania State Police Department SRT team assembled together. There was 24 of them. I guess I didn't go through this and take out all the fat as much as I wanted to. Basically, it just says doors flew off the hinges, windows were shattered, explosive charge boomed. The SRT team stormed the stunned Kohberger's white clapboard home. In the end, without a single shot being fired, Bryan Kohberger was let off in handcuffs. Jason Labar sat in his third-floor office overlooking Main Street downtown Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Labar, the chief public defender in the county, had awakened to the news that he would be the attorney representing Bryan Kohberger in the hearing for his extradition to Idaho. Yet it had at first seemed to the gleeful Pennsylvania authorities that a lawyer might be unnecessary. In the hours after his arrest, Kohberger had genially agreed to talk to the police. He said that, of course, he knew about the incident in Idaho. Everyone in the area did. After all, he explained he lived only about 10 miles from the house and kept on talking steadily, fastly, denying any involvement of the events for about 15 minutes. But as the eager interrogators' questions grew more pointed, Kohberger said enough. He wanted a lawyer, only he couldn't afford to pay for one. And so he talked to him for about 15 minutes. He was saying that he was innocent, that he was aware of the situation, basically only because of the fact that he lived so close and he knew how far the house was from where he lived. I mean, I would say you think that's suspicious, but I think everybody knew how far they lived from that house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But I mean, who's to say he didn't do it like on a regular basis? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is his routine. Including the vacuum thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like before, like I said earlier, it's just now it seems a lot more suspicious because the attention is towards him before it wasn't. Now it doesn't. It just sticks out more.
Right. No, you're right, man. Everything sticks out because what he's being accused of. You're absolutely right. So this just says that when the call went out to Labar, he was a logical choice. He was not only the chief public defender, but he had been in court before with 20 capital cases, and he was a local guy. Labar represented Kohberger in his extradition hearing. The conversation went on for about an hour. Afterward, Labar was willing to share a bit of what he had been discussed. He stated the lawyer said by making it clear to Kohberger that he would be representing him just in the extradition hearing. Therefore, he did not want to hear any of the specific details of the case. He did, however, want to know if his client was willing to release a statement to the press. Kohberger quickly agreed. In fact, was adamant. He was determined to make sure the people that knew that he was eager to be exonerated. Kohberger insisted, as Labar reported, "This is not me." He denied being the actor or having any specific knowledge of the crime. Labar also released a statement from Kohberger's family. First and foremost, we care deeply for the 4 families that have lost their precious children. It read, "We have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek to treat and promote his presumption of innocence rather than judge unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions." Lawyer was struck by how calm and intelligent Kohberger appeared. The gruesome crimes he had been charged with, the lawyer remarked with a clear sense of wonder, seemed a little out of character. This guy also came out forward and said that he thought there was some holes in this case, and that he didn't think that it was as open, closed, shut case as people were thinking. Thank you so much for misdemeanor for misdemeanor. I like that. Yeah. For the $10 super chat. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. What do you think?
I think at the end of the day, man, this case itself is gonna take us through some twists and turns, and it's gonna When the trial starts, it's going to be it's going to be a circus of just evidence. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree, man. Well, I hope so because, well, I don't know, man. I went from agreeing to hope so to I don't know. The discovery stuff that was turned over to Kohberger's lawyer didn't seem like a lot. Like it said one audio video. Like where's the video and the audio of the car trying to park?
Yeah.
The witness videos, the interviews. Like those should have been audioized. There should be audio of those as well.
True.
You know, the pictures that they took, I think it was like 1,800 pictures, right?
Damn.
There was like, you have the entrance and the exit. So there should be at least 500 to 600 pictures there. The path traveled, the actual 2 bedrooms where the incidents had occurred. I would have pictured up the bedrooms where the victims, the surviving roommates were at.
Yeah.
And then you have the outside area. That should have been, 1,800 is a little bit low in my opinion, to be honest with you. 95 pages worth of documents. You have evidence receipts. You have probably the probable cause affidavit, the arrest affidavit. You probably have reports from other officers that were part of the case as well that, were either responded to the scene or held the clipboard and just named everybody that walked in and out, took a time log. They have reports. You're also looking at everything that all the FBI agents were doing, things of that nature. And so 95 pages really isn't that much.
Yeah.
Let's we'll continue to read this and we'll go forward. Then within days, Labar was off the case. January 4th, shackled in a red jumpsuit, Kohberger was flown in a tiny fixed-wing single-engine Platus across the country. The plane landed in Moscow Pullman Regional Airport, the same airport where only about 3 weeks earlier, Michael Kohberger had arrived in anticipation of a congenial road trip with his son. Most perplexing questions, bad facts, and a phrase defense lawyers like to bandy about is a term that's meant to draw distinction between what is objectively real and what is subjective opinion. Just because the prosecutor says it's true, well, that doesn't make it so. And the bad facts were only this probable cause affidavit that the police obtained on Kohberger's arrest, as well as those in the laundry list of seemingly provocative items found in a search of Kohberger's apartment in Washington, are indeed disturbing. Item 1, the affidavit: a shoe with a diamond-shaped pattern, similar pattern of Vans-type shoe found. Cites a shoe found at the scene of the crime. I think they meant shoe print. I don't remember seeing anything saying that a shoe was found. Well, does Kohberger own a pair of Vans? And even if established that, does there a photo that shows at least one person in the house on the King Road wearing Vans prior to the incident? Item: the cell phone tower data that links Kohberger to the scene of the incident is more an approximation of his whereabouts than an exact location. And being in the vicinity is not all the same as being at the scene of the crime. More damaging, the affidavit with remarkable candor admits to some confusion in this analysis. It says investigators found that the 8545 phone Kohberger's cell did connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14, but investigators do not believe that phone was in Moscow on that date. The prosecution is stating that the cell phone evidence is correct only some of the time. How is that going to fly with the jury? Kohberger registered his white Hyundai Elantra in Washington shortly before returning home. The white Hyundai Elantra, while there are photos of the car zooming through Moscow streets the night of the incident, there is no clear photo of Kohberger at the wheel of the evening, not a single one.
Yep.
Item: the DNA on the knife sheath snap is apparently touch DNA that is derived from a fingerprint rather than a drop of blood. That's pretty shaky evidence, often more guesswork than science. The courtroom reality in this case after case. Touch DNA has been tarnished by motley collection of false positive results. Smart defense attorney might argue that there's just as much likelihood of touch DNA being accurate as a juror winning the lottery. Who'd want to condemn someone to execution based on those odds. The eyewitness identification. Well, a lot of people have bushy eyebrows, and the testimony of a witness who was frozen in shock phase, as she put, it might be problematic at best. And that's without even getting into why she waited 7 hours or so before making sure the police were notified. The pignet truth might very well be that Dylan Mortensen, although she was not physically attacked, was another victim that night, and that she was in no shape to take a witness stand for fast, rapid firing, if not meant spirited defense counsel. Now, before we move forward, one thing about that and the possibility of, or why she called the sorority, two things can be right at the same time, right? Like she, the sorority was on probation for hazing, drugs, or alcohol. She could have had recreational drugs, and this incident could have not had anything to do with the fact that she had drugs or possible drugs in the house. And she may not have known the severity of what had occurred in that house. So, for instance, there's a possibility that everything happened in the manner that she said. She froze, she went back, she locked the room, she, in fear, didn't know what happened, doesn't hear anything else happen, so doesn't do anything, waits till the next morning, starts texting people, start texting her roommates, nobody's responding. Mm-hmm. She texts friends to come over, friends come over. They, find the situation, and, they take out whatever possible, anything that would have gotten those girls in trouble out of the house. And so just because, all those things can be plausible all at the same time. You get what I'm saying, Jaime?
No, yeah, definitely. When it comes down to that footprint, and did it say there that they have a shoe? They know exactly what it is. They know what shoe it was.
That's what it sounded like. That's why I said it sounds like they have the shoe. Let me see. Let me scroll back up quick. Item. The affidavit cites a shoe. No, the affidavit cites the shoe with a diamond-shaped pattern. I guess he meant the footprint.
Okay.
Found at the scene. Yeah, because they didn't find the shoe.
Okay, I was gonna say, man, they found the shoe that made that print, because man, it's college, man. Everybody has shoes. Everybody has Vans. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I have 3 pairs of Vans, and I'm 38 years old. Yeah. I'm still trying to feel young.
Still. Hey, by the way, I went to Kohl's, and we're not sponsored by them yet. We should be, but I went to Kohl's, and they had some Vans there that were like 80% off because the store was closing or something. I was like, oh, I should have told Jaime before he bought those Vans at the expensive store.
Yeah, man. I was like, man, that hurt. That hurt my wallet pretty good, but my son's happy. So.
And then he stepped in a water puddle.
And then he stepped in a water puddle. That's all right, man. It's all right, man.
I saw that.
Yeah, he's happy. I'm happy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so item, the weapon. Where is it? The police have not found the long-bladed knife used in the in the incident, and they have not so far been able to establish Kohberger owns such a weapon. And I have to wonder how consequentially they are trying. Just a week ago, I walked into Dunkelberger's on Main Street in Stroudsburg. It's a sporting goods store that might as well be an armory. There are walls mounted with racks of rifles, display cases lined with gleaming long-bladed knives. It's just about a half-hour drive from Kohberger family home in Altsbright. It's the sort of local shop you might want to visit if one were looking to buy a knife. So I asked the man who identified himself as a manager. The police checked the store records to see if Bryan Kohberger had made a purchase. Nope. He answered, pretty surprisingly, too, now that you mention it. So they didn't check the stores nearby where he lived prior to moving to Idaho, which he I don't think he was there very long. I think he had just graduated from DeSales University in Pennsylvania a couple months prior, I think like in June or July, and so he wasn't there for very long. Are you surprised that police didn't go and talk to the nearby places over there if that's not a weapon that he took with him?
Man, from what I've seen from the beginning of this case, it just seems like they didn't do the greatest job either, following leads and in the crime scene itself. You know what I mean? Like, especially
Right.
because of the stools, using the stools like to lock the sliding door that wouldn't lock because of the broken lock. That's
Right.
I mean, you're using evidence, man. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, man. It's just they were unprepared, and unknowing, and it's a small town. You don't expect for this to happen, but
No, that's true. Yeah.
At the same time, you're trained and you go to courses, and just like everybody else, just because these type of crimes may not have occur as often as they do in larger cities or areas, doesn't mean that you're not trained for them. It's completely alien to you. They need to understand those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so this thing goes on to say, but arguably the most perplexing question that the prosecutors will have to wrestle if they hope to persuade a jury is the why. What's the motive for somebody to harm 4 college students in cold blood? And so far, there isn't one. I'm growing increasingly convinced that they will never find one, at least not a motive that is grounded in common sense logic. Motive is a reason, though. That might be another story. And so I find my thoughts being drawn back to the body cam footage of the police. The police shot at the King Road residence on Thursday night, late September, less than 2 months before the incident. 3 officers responding to a notice complaint an annoyed neighbor had made. The neighbor certainly had good cause. The house was jumping. There was a tumult of blasting music, high-spirited, attractive college kids wandering in and out of a 3-story home. 6-packs and empty Truly cans were scattered about. So I watched that video, replaying it again and again, perplexing days that followed. I found myself reflecting on one of the wise old William Blake's acronyms. Exuberance is beauty. These giddy going-ons were exuberant, all right. And in their reckless, heedless, incautious, forever young ebullience, they were beautiful too. Can you imagine looking at that wild night? All the happy frivolity from someone hiding out in the shadows, at the same time knowing deep in your dark heart that you would never be a part of anything that exuberant, that beautiful. It would be hell, a hell unsatisfied desire that could plunge someone deeper and deeper into tormenting rage and envy that would be all-consuming sickness, and in the end, there would be no way out, just the deed. And that is the end of the article. And the article is from, it is called The Eyes of a Killer Part 2 by Howard Bloom. It was out on January 28th. This is him. He is the author, journalist. And I took out a significant amount of this, guys.
You took away the fat.
I took away the fat, man, and just kind of put together what was important and what was the what was the important part and what was the not so important. So there was a lot of stuff that talks about, backstories on police officers and what they've done in their career and things of that nature. I just didn't feel it was relevant for the case or what we're trying to do today. And so when you put all the facts together, there's a few things that we don't know. We don't know what they found in the car, and we don't know what the test result of what they found in the house as far as the hairs came back.
Yeah.
With all that said, you think they do you think they got more, man? Let's just break it down. Do you think they got more? Or you think this is all they have? Because I feel like this might be all they have.
If this is all they have, man, I feel like they're trying to save face, because it is a college town.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, if you look at the past incidents that you showed up last time that we were on there, they didn't really make an impact on those casualties. You know what I mean? On those people that passed away, they didn't make a big fuss about it. And it almost seems like they're kind of like toning it down. You know what I mean?
watering it out.
Yeah, it almost seems like that. I mean, one of the guys that supposedly was involved with one of these persons passing away, he only got 19 days.
Yeah, the guy for the hazing, Sam Martinez. Yeah, there was that, and there was the fact that you had, you go back to 2011, you have a student there reporting, her and her friends reporting a professor that she had a relationship with, that he was telling them that he was having fantasies of student orgies and then unaliving them by gun. And the University of Idaho responds by saying, well, we have a confidentiality contract with the professors. They couldn't do anything about it. They urged them to go to the police and allowed that guy to continue and maintain working until the police stepped in, and then they started their investigation as far as the university goes, and then suspended him. And then it was 3 days later he goes and commits a horrific crime.
Yeah, I mean, even like when you go talk to a therapist, they have that confidentiality, right? Like between the client and him, right? But like when it comes down, like when people might get hurt, they can call the police and get something done.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if somebody is alluding to the possibility of a mass, incident.
Yeah, exactly.
It's insane. It's insane.
I mean, but at the end of the day, man, like we're getting a small fraction of what they have. I mean, I believe so. I hope they have a lot more, and I hope if he is, if he did do this crime, I mean, I hope there's justice. And at the end of the day, also we lost, we lost 4 students, young students. Not only them, but the ones that have passed away there in that town. From these kind of incidents that almost always involve some kind of hazing or some sort of that. I mean, alcohol is always kind of involved in it.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just sad.
I think it's Bryan. I'm not going to say I don't think it's Bryan. Like if somebody were to tell me, who do you think it is? And if I had to put money on it, I'd say it was Bryan. And, my thing is, I don't think that the case is strong enough. There's a difference between what you know and what you can prove. You get what I'm saying? You can know that it's Bryan. And what points to it is, and it's all circumstantial, but you have to, and this is what the prosecution is going to try to do. They're going to say, all right, you have all this circumstantial evidence. You have the fact that this guy messaged these girls, regardless if there was a contact back. He was in their DMs. So he was aware of who they were. You have a guy who was driving a vehicle without a front license plate, who was up and around in the area, at least in the vicinity, before and after the incident. So it wasn't like he was asleep at 4:00 in the morning. His phone was off during the commissioning of the crime and turned on after the crime was completed. You have the possible phone cell pings of him close to the victim's house. And then you have the DNA on the sheath. So when you put it all together like that, it definitely does point in his direction. The defense is going to go in there and say, all right, well, you have one speck of DNA. You have multiple cars on camera, right? At one point, you thought it was a 2013. At another point, that you expanded that to a 2015, 2016. Was it because you were onto Kohberger and that's why you expanded it, but didn't tell the nation? Because when they, put it out there that they were looking for a 20, for an Elantra, they didn't put out their 2011 and 2016. They put out their 2011 and 2013. Yeah. Right. And so when did they find that out? Or was that because maybe perhaps they were looking at the surveillance footage of, and this is what Lena from Truth and Transparency was saying, is they were looking at the surveillance footage near the King Road residence, and that looked like a 2011 to 2013, and then the one that they have going into Pullman and around Pullman looks like it possibly could be a 2015, 16. Those things are possible. Regardless, you're going to have the prosecution going into that saying, hey, you have some question marks here. Is it possible that there was more than one vehicle out at that time without a front license plate? And, you know, you look at the number of Elantras that are out there, they're going to try to poke holes into that.
Yeah.
You know, you look at the pings, the affidavit itself brings up the question of the reliability of the pings. And so, altogether, once, you know, each one of those pieces of circumstantial evidence can kind of be ruled out. They have they put in the probable cause affidavit, his actions after the fact, or when he went to Idaho, Johnson, Idaho, and Albertsons, and all these other places, but they aren't able to tie those trips back into the case. You know, I think that's concerning that they can't. They have that, but they can't tie it in. You need to be able to tie it back in.
Yeah.
And so, my hope is that they find something in the car.
Yeah. That way they can, you know, have really solid evidence. I mean, because at the end, all have to do, defense has to do is just raise, you know, reasonable doubt. That's all they have to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think there's I mean, the only thing that they're going to have trouble, and nobody knows what this answer is yet, except for Bryan and maybe his defense team, is what is his explanation as to why his DNA was on that sheet?
Yeah. I mean, they can use the fact that a lot of people were there throughout who knows how long. You know what I mean? They were throwing parties and whatnot. But it's just, there's that, and then there's also the fact that there's no positive idea who's driving the car in the security footage.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's none of that. There's just a lot that's concerning. But, you know, it doesn't take much to pull it all together. If one of those hair strands comes back to one of the victims in his apartment complex, as long as they can prove that he and whoever's hair it is didn't have some sort of relationship, not talking romantic, it could have been friendly, could have been whatever. As long as they can prove that wasn't the case, which if he's in their message requests, if that's Instagram, even though he's following them, that would mean that they're not following him. We kind of allude that they weren't friendly or know each other. And so one of those hairs, or the dog hair, the one strand that goes found in his apartment complex, comes back to somebody in the King Road residence, and I think they got him.
Yeah.
The description of the scene, you know, and the amount of blood that was lost by the victims would lead you to believe that they should find something in that car, right?
Definitely, man. I mean, the thing about that is like the way he went after he left, or after the suspect left the residence, and the drive he made. I mean, he could have disposed of all that, you know, had to change. But even that, like, even if get into your car with this much, you know, of much blood on you, you're bound to leave some kind of trace in the car. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I remember seeing the case where the guy did a, you know, homicide, and he had a change of clothes and everything, right? And still had his gloves on, and he went into his car and moved the rear mirror, and he left a print behind it, and they found that print, that DNA print in the back. And when he cleaned it all up and everything, that's the only thing that he forgot to clean up, the print on the back of the rear mirror.
Probably, man. A lot of folks talking about this knife chief. They think that maybe perhaps it was planned or left behind on purpose. You think so?
I don't think so, man. I honestly don't. I think, and like, it has that hoop for the belt, but like I said before, you know, wearing that on the side and driving is not comfortable sometimes, you know, especially because, you know, I'm a bigger dude, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it digs into the side of my stomach and stuff. So like I take it off, and and I leave it there. And I feel like that's what happened. You know, that he took it out, went up there, did what he did, and in the moment he just, I guess, forgot.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion. So for those that don't know, this right here is a big loop, and through right there you put the your belt in. If this is a guy that's not experienced with this, driving would be uncomfortable for him. He may not know where to position it so that it would be comfortable in while he's sitting in his car.
Mhm.
So he may have had it in the sheath, in his pocket, took it out, you know, committed his crime, and then forgot about it. I was going to ask you another one, but I completely forgot where I was going. There was another question that I have for you.
I also think
go ahead.
like it's super, like, I find it weird that, you know, when they witnessed him, or when they witnessed the suspect coming out and walking in front of the door, was it Dylan's, right? Dylan's door?
Mm-hmm.
That she noticed everything, like the clothing, the mask, the eyebrows, but I mean, didn't notice a knife. Like, where would he put the knife without a sheath?
Well, I wish I
That's-
had a knife with me. If he wasn't carrying the knife facing out that way, if he had the knife with the blade behind him and was
behind the
walking
wrist.
out, yeah, behind the wrist, or
Mhm.
like if you were to be going like that in the downward motion,
Mhm.
blade facing back. If
Yeah.
it's a black blade against black clothing, it may not show. I remember
Same
what
as
I was
blood, right?
right. Now he didn't have any scratches, right? They had they took in evidence a Dickies tag.
Mhm.
Why do you think they took that in?
I mean, I know, like Dickies brands is like I have pairs of Dickies pants and a jacket. I know they're stain resistant, so I don't know if that matters, but that would be a good article of clothing to wear during something like this. You know what I mean? They're real durable, but like I'm not really sure. Maybe that's what they think he was wearing. That's why he bought it for that specific
See,
situation.
that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's a material under the fingernails
Like left behind.
of the victims. Yeah, scratched
Mhm.
material
Mhm.
could be matching that. We have Shayna Doran with a $3 super chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. As for Paula Johnson, who comes in, I missed it. What capacity in law enforcement were you, and how long? I was there for a few years as just a police officer. I was not a detective or anything like that. 5 years. So got out, opened up a business that was going well, and been doing this YouTube stuff covering true crime and UFOs and other conspiracies. And also I cover the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you guys are Steeler fans, go check out my other YouTube show. It's called State of the Steelers. It's off season already for us, but I still put out content. Get another perspective with another point of view of something that I truly enjoy talking about. And so back to this right here. I think there's material there. We talked about this while you were up here. They took in a Marshall's receipt.
Mhm.
They sell possibly vans at Marshall's, right?
Yeah.
And so
And Dickies.
And so I'm thinking that, well, they had the Walmart's receipt, they had a Marshall's receipt, and they had a Dickies tag.
Mhm.
And so, my opinion, those things to combine, that's what you're probably looking for on the. They have to be tied into this case in some form or fashion, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking there's material underneath the fingernails, and I'm assuming there's vans on one of those receipts. But it's a confusing. There's a lot of questions here, but I'm one. What is it called? Occam's razor or something like that, where most likely explanation is probably the most accurate one. I'm thinking that this guy committed this crime, and the police, I don't think they're setting anybody up. I don't think they're doing any of those things. I think this guy is a PhD guy in criminology and psychology. He's not, I don't think he's a stupid guy. I think he left little evidence behind, and it's going to be a tough case, man.
Yeah.
Unless they find something, man. They have to find something in that damn car. If there's nothing in that car, I'm going to start questioning whether or not this guy's the guy. That's the one thing that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, how if they don't find nothing in the car, that'll be and if he really did this, that'll be amazing for him not to have DNA in there.
Yeah. And Leah, no, I'm not from the Berg. We're from Texas, but I'm a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I covered them on State of the Steelers and also Behind the Steel Curtain. If they don't find anything, man, in that car, just based on the type of scene that was described, right? My mind is perplexed that entire house leading from one direction to another, from upstairs to Xana's room, from Xana's room out the back, that there's only one footprint.
Yeah, exactly.
No blood trail, nothing. Yet you have so much blood there that you can smell it as you walk out. It's escaping the exterior of the house onto the foundation.
And especially if they have the heater on, or the AC or whatever, that same air is going to circulate, and that smell is going to circulate through the whole house.
Yeah, that's true. And so it's a confusing one, but it's not one we're not going away from. We'll continue to talk about this case.
Yeah.
We're getting close to 2 hours, so we'll be kind of doing our going aways here. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Upcoming this week, tomorrow at 7:30, myself and Big Blue will be going on a podcast called Criming Shame, and we'll be talking with a criminal profiler on that show. And then later on Friday, we have Publicly Buzzed coming on, being a guest. And we'll be talking about this case. Tomorrow we're talking about myself and Blue Jaime will be out on assignment again. And so we're gonna be talking the Idaho 4, and we're gonna be talking a little bit of Delphi. If you guys haven't seen it, we've talked Delphi before. We've done a breakdown of the probable cause affidavit. We think that there's significantly more evidence and stronger evidence against Richard Allen than is against Bryan Kohberger, to be honest.
Just with the timeline itself.
Yeah, that timeline. If you guys haven't seen it, we broke down the probable cause affidavit. We put the timeline out there. We're going to be talking about Delphi. We're going to be talking about Idaho. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Jaime, do you have any last words for everybody before we get on out of here?
No, I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank all the people in the chat, everybody watching, the members. Thanks for supporting us. And I'm happy to see that the chat's a lot civil than last time. So that's good. And I just want to say good night. Good night to everybody.
I appreciate that. And I want to say thank you to everybody in the live chat that was participated in today's show, participated in going. Also, we'll be doing a giveaway here pretty soon. We're going to be giving away one of these bad boys, not this one. This one's the Jaime edition. But we'll be giving away one of these and a couple memberships here in the next couple of lives. It will be to a subscriber, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let me see. Well, Daniel, if you want the truth about the Steelers, listen to 105.9. I don't listen to Mark Madden, Thomas, but I'll be honest with you. I've been compared to not sounding like him, but having a realistic approach when it comes to my team and when it comes to talking about them. You know, early on in the season, I'm all homer, man. The Steelers can't do no wrong, but after about 3 or 4 games in, I start to see where the team is heading, and I'm pretty realistic. So check me out. But yeah, Mark Madden, he's a he's gotten his lumps and bruises when it comes to what he says about the Steelers. We'll leave it at that. Yeah. But yeah, hit that like and subscribe button, y'all, on your way out. We appreciate you. We'll be back on our show Wednesday night, and I think we're going to be taking some phone calls. So get your phones ready and get your popcorn. See you then. Peace.
Later, man.
We'll see how long this one takes to end.
Right. Always takes long.